We want to keep this focus on a lava flow. I know that's why all of us are here. If anybody has any other questions on issues other than the status on the flow, current projections, we're so happy to have, of course, again, this is our 5th meeting in a couple weeks, Dr. Jim Kawahikawa, and our Civil Defense Administrator, Darryl Oliveira, to give us detailed updates as to the status of the flow, direction, pace, and any options and alternatives that we're currently looking at. Today I did sign an emergency declaration, and that is based on the latest available data and information that we're getting from USGS, Hawaii Volcano Observatory, and in discussion with our Civil Defense Administrator. And what that does is a couple things. One, starting from today, allows us to protect the integrity of Kauohe homesteads and all of the residents, restrict access to just residents, and allow, in case of evacuation, if that is required, that it's an orderly and safe evacuation for all of our affected residents. Primary concern. Number two, an emergency declaration allows the County of Hawaii to begin immediately responding to the threat of the lava impacting Highway 130. Which allows us, instead of going to planning and permitting and all of the different hurdles that comes with building infrastructure, we can go right in and begin to start constructing and building alternate routes out of Loa Puna if that's the case. I want to reiterate that all of our department heads and administration meets daily and regularly. Of course, you guys know our Civil Defense Administrator goes up every morning to do an aerial check, daily consultations. And I just want to reassure everybody that whatever needs to be done, whatever decisions need to be made, whatever coordination between federal, state, county, and community, and whatever resources are necessary to protect our community and provide access out of Lower Puna, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure we protect, assist, and help all of you.
But this morning we did an overflight. We're going to continue doing that. Tomorrow it'll be at 8:30 in the morning when we leave, so it's a little later in the day. And again, we'll be putting up or updating our messages throughout the day. As the mayor pointed out, we did upgrade the threat level. HVO has upgraded it to a warning status based on the proximity of the flow to the subdivision. We're not activating any form of an evacuation at this time because it doesn't pose that imminent threat. We are following it every day, and as the mayor said, Dr. Jim and I talk multiple times throughout the day, every day, and share what we see as well as what research or information he can pass on that they find in their findings. The flow this morning was still about 0.8 miles from the forest reserve boundary. It was moving in a more easterly direction, so you can see from the smoke kind of parallel to the forest reserve. Oh, sorry, okay. It's moving in a direction that's more east-northeast, so parallel to the forest reserve boundary with the residential subdivision there. It's still about 0.8 miles away. The behavior or the flow progress has been erratic. It didn't move, or it only moved about 100 yards since yesterday. But this afternoon, when Dr. Jim's team went up, it had moved significantly further forward, again in that easterly direction. There's still a steam plume coming out from the crack system, which gives an indication there is some subsurface activity there. It hasn't moved very far downslope yet. As we indicated, with the threat level being elevated, starting tomorrow we'll be restricting access into Kauohe Homestead subdivision. So we're working with the community there, setting up barricades as well as coordinating the movement of people in and out. Because in talking to some of the residents, we do know that they have family members helping them move things. So we'd like to make this as easy and comfortable and safe for everyone. And so we will have a security presence as well as some barricades there. And with that, we continue to ask everyone's cooperation because you can't see anything by entering the subdivision. It does create additional stress for the residents there with people trying to go in there. We're asking the media to also be sensitive to the residents because this is a very trying time for them. It's so uncertain. As I've shared in previous meetings or presentations, this can be a very frustrating process for all of you. More so when it's uncertain what's going to really happen. That uncertainty just adds to the frustration. And we do understand and appreciate that. So we want to make this as easy on everyone. We do also have tonight Mr. Warren Lee and Brandon Gonzalez from our Public Works Department. As we shared previously, they had been identifying those alternate access routes and connectors between the subdivision. They've identified some really good solutions that they have and are prepared to deploy, and part of this proclamation today allows them to move forward with some of that.
Anyway, this is the photo from yesterday afternoon. You can see that it's 0.8 miles to the Pahoa homestead boundary. And so this is what it looked like. There were some flows. Basically, the story is that the flows have come out of the crack yesterday. They started to flow to the northeast, as Daryl said. And they were quite active yesterday. You can see some of the lava down here. But mostly, the contacted ohia trees and uluhe burning. This was the photo from this morning on the CD overflight. Still a lot of burning here. Progress was about 100 yards overnight to the northeast. And so you can see sort of the diversion here, that instead of going along the crack, the lava flows are kind of going in this direction. We had some people out in the field repairing telemetry at Pahoa, and we decided to route them over the flow to get an additional point. And the surface lava had continued to advance about 400 yards away from the crack, which was good news because it'll spread out and move more slowly on the surface. But the leading edge, part of the leading edge, was flowing into another crack to the northeast. So as I mentioned before, this area has a lot of cracks. We don't know where they all are. So we'll be watching that carefully. So the basic information here is that the leading edge is about 0.8 miles still from the Pahoa homestead boundary. When it's in the crack, it's advancing at about 800 feet per day. It's going much slower over the surface, or it's going slower over the surface. And the news is that we have elevated the hazard level to the top, which is warning, for Pahoa homesteads, because this is within a mile and it's still advancing towards the homestead. So this is the most current map, but I have a couple others based on requests from people in the audience on earlier meetings. This is a close-up of the end. Some people have been wanting to see the progress of the flow along this crack, and so there's a few timelines here. And this September 4th point was the one from this afternoon. You can see that it's gone a fair ways, about 400 meters from the crack, but it is probably going into another crack out here. And then again, I've said this every night about the terrain. One reason that we have difficulty predicting where the flow is going to go is because of the cracks. We don't know where all the cracks are. Once it goes into the crack, it's going to go along the crack. And the trend of the crack is right here within the rift zone. They're all pretty much going this way, east-northeast. Now, this is a shaded relief map intended to help you visualize the uneven terrain in here. It's broken up. There's a bunch of cracks, very difficult terrain. It'd be much easier for flows to go this way than across it. This is an oblique view of that same terrain. You can see the flows have gone this way along the crack. And here's another view. This is a topographic map, and I'm going to show you a profile of the topography along this line. And so the approximate location of the crack is right here. And what you can gather from this plot is that should the lava get out of cracks and go onto the surface, the downhill from this part of the rift zone is to the north, actually northeast. So another request from somebody in the audience was that here is the tip of the crack. These are the flows that have moved out about 400 yards this way. This distance is about 4.2 miles to the highway within Pahoa. And if we project out lava flows that are moving within the crack, which we know now move about 250 meters or 800 feet per day, that would put this lava somewhere in the vicinity of the highway within about a month, 27 days. But of course, if the lava gets out of the crack and moves along the surface, it's unknown how fast that would be. It's unlikely that it would be 250 meters per day or 800 feet per day. It's likely that it would be a lot slower because the flow will spread out. And so just to pick a low spot, a low value, pick out a tenth of that, 80 feet per day. we're looking at about 8 or 9 months to get to the highway. So there's a lot of uncertainty still. This could stay within the crack system and just move around in here and make slow progress towards the Kohei homesteads. It could get out on the surface, move even slower towards the highway. These blue lines, by the way, the sort of purple lines, are calculated from the smooth digital topography with no cracks in it whatsoever. And so what we do is kind of digitally put a sheet of water on the ground and watch how it flows off of the topography. And you can see that this kind of looks like river channels and things, and that's exactly what they would be if the rain didn't percolate into the ground, which you know it really does. But it also tells us the directions that any fluid will flow on the surface, including lava.